The starship Times Wanderer Times had been traveling through deep space for 3 long years. Commander Jake Morrison stood at the observation window and looked out at the endless darkness. Behind him, his crew of 12 worked quietly at their stations. They were far from Earth now, farther than any human had ever gone before. Jake was a tall man with tired eyes and gray streaks in his dark hair. He had left Earth to find something new, something that would give meaning to his life. So far, they had found only empty planets and dead moons. But today would be different. "Commander, I'm picking up something strange," said Lisa Grant from the navigation console. She was a young woman with sharp eyes and quick hands. "There's a signal coming from the system ahead. Twin suns, and something else." Jake walked over to her station and looked at the readings. His heart beat faster. The signal was not natural. Someone had made it. "Take us in," he said, slowly. The Times Wanderer Times moved through the darkness toward the twin suns. As they got closer, they saw it, a ship. But not like any ship humans had ever built. It was huge and beautiful, made of something that looked like crystal. It caught the light of the 2 suns and glowed with soft colors. But something was wrong. The ship was not moving. No lights shone from its windows. It drifted alone in the emptiness, like a dead thing. "No power readings," said Danny Park, the ship's engineer. He was a small man with clever hands and a quick mind. Whatever happened to them? It happened fast. Jake made his decision. "We're going aboard." His crew looked at him with surprise. This was against every rule they had been taught. But Jake had not come all this way to turn back now. He took 4 crew members with him: Amy Cole, the medic, Danny Park, Lisa Grant, and a security officer named Ben Torres. They put on their spacesuits and crossed the gap between the 2 ships. Inside the alien vessel, everything was quiet. The walls were smooth and pale, covered with symbols none of them could read. The air was breathable. So they removed their helmets. It smelled strange, like flowers and metal mixed together. Then they found the bodies. They lay everywhere. In the corridors and rooms. Tall beings with silver-white skin and long limbs. Their eyes were closed. Their faces looked peaceful, but they were clearly dead. Some had wounds from weapons. Others showed no marks at all. "What happened here?" Amy whispered. She knelt beside one of the bodies and examined it with her medical scanner. These wounds. They were fighting each other. Jake felt cold inside. This was not an attack from outside. These beings had killed each other. They moved deeper into the ship, stepping carefully around the fallen. The command chamber was at the center. A large, round room with a high ceiling. More bodies lay here. But Jake barely noticed them. His eyes were fixed on the figure in the center of the room. She was alive. She lay on the floor near what looked like a control console. Her skin was silver-white like the others, but it seemed to glow faintly. Her hair was long and strange, moving slowly even though there was no wind, like it was underwater. She wore robes of deep blue, now stained with blood. Amy rushed to her side and began scanning her body. "She's hurt badly. Internal bleeding. I don't know her anatomy, but if I don't do something, she'll die." Jake looked at the alien woman. Her eyes were closed, but her face showed pain even in sleep. He thought about the rules, about protocol, about everything he had been taught. Then he thought about leaving her here, to die alone, among the bodies of her people. "Save her," he said. Amy worked for an hour, using everything she knew and guessing at the rest. Danny found a medical device on the alien ship that helped translate her biology into something Amy could understand. It was not perfect, but it was enough. They carried the alien woman back to the Times Wanderer Times and placed her in the medical bay. Amy stayed with her through the night, watching her vital signs and adjusting her treatment. 3 days passed. The crew took turns watching over their strange guest. They talked in whispers about what they had found, about what it meant. Were there others out there? Would someone come looking for her? On the 4th day, she opened her eyes. Jake was sitting beside her bed when it happened. Her eyes were violet, deep and bright like gems. She looked at him without moving, studying his face with an expression he could not read. "You are not Kethvari," she said. Her voice was soft and musical. She spoke through a small device they had found on her ship, a translator that turned her words into English. "No," Jake said. "I'm human. My name is Jake Morrison. You're on my ship. You're safe." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke again. "I am Valith Soranai, third princess of the Kethvari Dominion." She paused. "Or I was." Jake leaned forward. "What happened to your ship? To your people?" Pain crossed her face like a shadow. "They were killed. By our own kind. There is a faction among my people who call themselves purists. They believe we should not seek peace with other species. They believe we should conquer or destroy." She closed her eyes. "My father, the Emperor, wants a different path. He sent me to find allies among the younger races. The purists found out. They attacked our ship. They killed everyone except you," Jake said. "Yes." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I do not know why they left me alive. Perhaps they thought I was already dead." Jake sat back in his chair. He was a simple man from a small town in Colorado. He had joined the space program to escape his problems, not to solve the problems of an alien empire. But here he was, sitting beside a princess from the stars, and he had a choice to make. "What do you want to do now?" he asked. Valith looked at him with those violet eyes. "I cannot go back. The purists control too much. If I return, they will kill me. And they will learn about your people. They will come for you too. So we're both in danger." Yes, Jake thought about Earth, about his crew, about everything he had sworn to protect. Then he looked at Valith, alone and wounded, and far from home. He thought about what kind of man he wanted to be. "Then we'll figure it out together," he said. For the first time, something like hope flickered in the alien princess's eyes. She reached out with one slender hand and touched his arm. Her skin was cool and smooth. "Thank you," she said. "I do not understand humans yet, but I think perhaps I would like to." Jake smiled. It was a small smile, tired and uncertain, but it was real. "That makes two of us," he said. Outside the window, the stars burned cold and bright. Somewhere out there, enemies were waiting. But for now, in this small room on a human ship lost in the vastness of space, two strangers from different worlds had found something rare. They had found a beginning. 3 months passed on the Times Wanderer asterisk. The ship drifted through empty space while the crew debated what to do next. They could not go home. The journey would take years. And now they carried a secret that could change everything. They could not stay here forever. Their supplies would run out eventually, and they could not simply hand Valith over to her enemies, so they waited and planned and hoped for answers. During those months, Valith grew stronger. Her wounds healed, though she would always carry scars from that terrible day. She spent her time learning about humans, watching them work and talk and laugh. She was fascinated by everything. "Your people touch each other so easily," she said to Jake one evening. They were sitting in the observation room, watching the stars drift past. A hand on the shoulder, an arm around a friend. "Among my people, touch is sacred. We only touch family and those we trust completely." Jake nodded. He had noticed how carefully she moved around the crew, how she kept space between herself and others. "For us, touch is how we show care. It doesn't always mean something deep. Sometimes it just means we're glad you're here." Valith considered this. "I think I understand. Humans are very warm." "Some of us," Jake said with a small laugh. "Not all." She asked him about Earth, and he told her about blue skies and green forests, about oceans that stretched beyond sight, and mountains that touched the clouds. He told her about cities full of millions of people, about small towns where everyone knew everyone, about the beautiful and terrible things humans had done throughout their history. "You are violent," Valith said. It was not a judgment, just an observation. You have wars, cruelty, hatred, and yet you also have such kindness, such love. How do you hold both things inside you? Jake thought about this for a long time. I don't know, he finally said. Maybe that's what makes us human. We're not perfect. We're not even close. But we keep trying to be better. Sometimes we fail. Sometimes we hurt each other. But we also save each other. We build things. We hope. Hope, Valeth repeated. We have this word too. But I think humans mean something different by it. For you, hope is not just waiting for something good. It is believing you can make something good happen. Yeah, Jake said. I guess that's right. She looked at him with those violet eyes, and he felt something shift inside his chest. He pushed the feeling away. She was an alien princess. He was a simple commander from Colorado. Whatever he was feeling, it was not something he should act on, but the feeling did not go away. Valeth also learned about the galactic community from the data on her ship. She shared this knowledge with the crew, showing them maps of star systems and images of other species. There were dozens of civilizations out there, some ancient and powerful, others young and struggling. The Kethvari Dominion was among the oldest and strongest. My people have ruled for 10,000 years, Valeth explained. We were explorers once, seekers of knowledge. But we grew proud and tired. We stopped changing. Now we only maintain what we have, and we fear anything new. Is that why the purists want to destroy us? Amy asked. She had become close with Valeth, spending hours together in the medical bay talking about science and medicine. Yes, humans are new. You are unpredictable. You do not fit into the order the purists want to preserve. They see you as a threat. Are we? Danny asked. He was working on repairs nearby, but he had been listening. Valeth smiled. It was a human expression she had learned, and it looked strange on her silver face, but also beautiful. I do not know. But I hope so. The galaxy needs to be threatened. It needs to change. 2 weeks later, the change arrived. A Kethvari patrol vessel appeared on their sensors. It was smaller than Valeth's original ship, but still much larger than the Times Wanderer Asterisk. It moved toward them with clear purpose. They're hailing us, Lisa said from her station. Her voice was tense. Put them through, Jake said. A face appeared on the screen. A Kethvari male, his silver skin marked with lines of age, his eyes cold and hard. He spoke in the musical language of his people, and the translator turned his words to English. Human vessel, you have something that belongs to the Dominion. Return the Princess Valeth Soranai to us immediately, and we will allow you to leave. Jake looked at Valeth. She stood beside him, her back straight, her face calm. But he could see the fear in her eyes. She knew this commander. She knew what he would do. She's requested sanctuary with us, Jake said. Under human custom, that means she's under our protection. The Kethvari commander laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Human custom. You are children playing at civilization. You have no rights in this galaxy. Give us the princess, or we will take her by force. Jake felt anger rise in his chest. He was tired of being told what he was worth, tired of being dismissed and ignored. He had traveled 3 years through the darkness to find something meaningful, and now this arrogant alien was telling him that none of it mattered. He made a decision. This is Commander Jake Morrison of the human vessel Times Wanderer Asterisk, he said, his voice strong and clear. I am broadcasting this message to any ship that can hear me. We have offered sanctuary to Princess Valeth Soranai of the Kethvari Dominion. She came to us in need, and we gave her shelter. That is what humans do. We protect those who ask for protection. We stand by those who stand alone. If anyone threatens our guests, they threaten us, and we do not surrender. Over, the bridge was silent. His crew stared at him with wide eyes. Valeth looked at him with an expression he had never seen before, something between wonder and disbelief. The Kethvari commander's face twisted with rage. You will regret this, human. Your species will burn for your arrogance. The screen went dark. A moment later, The patrol vessel turned and jumped away into the void. Jake let out a breath he did not know he had been holding. His hands were shaking. "Commander," Danny said slowly. "Did you just challenge an alien empire?" "I think I did," Jake said. "On behalf of a woman you met 3 months ago?" "Yeah," Danny nodded. "Okay, just checking." Valeth stepped forward. She was looking at Jake like she was seeing him for the first time. "No one has ever defied my people," she said. "Not for generations. Not for a stranger." "You're not a stranger," Jake said. She reached out and took his hand. Her touch was cool and gentle. Among her people, he now knew. This gesture meant something profound. It meant trust. It meant family. "Thank you," she whispered. Jake squeezed her hand softly. "Don't thank me yet. We just made some very powerful enemies. Then we will face them together." Jake looked into her violet eyes and felt that strange feeling again. The one he had been trying to ignore. But this time, he did not push it away. "Together," he agreed. Outside the window, the stars waited in silence. The message Jake had sent was traveling across the void, reaching ears both friendly and hostile. The galaxy had heard humanity's voice for the first time, and nothing would ever be the same. The response to Jake's message came sooner than anyone expected. A week after the confrontation with the patrol vessel, the Times Wanderer Times received a transmission. It was not from the Kethvari. It came from a coalition of smaller species who had lived under the shadow of the Dominion for centuries. They had heard Jake's words, and they wanted to meet. "They call themselves the Refuge," Valeth explained as she studied the message. "Exiles, dissidents, survivors of Dominion expansion. I knew they existed, but I never paid attention. They were beneath notice." She paused, shame crossing her face. "That is what I was taught." "And now?" Jake asked. "Now I wonder what else I was taught to ignore." They traveled to the coordinates provided in the message. It took 2 weeks. During that time, Valeth spent hours looking through the data from her destroyed ship, learning things she had never been allowed to learn. The history of Dominion conquests, the species that had been wiped out or enslaved, the truth hidden behind the noble words of her ancestors. She shared her discoveries with Jake late at night, when the rest of the crew was sleeping. "My people built an empire on suffering," she said. Her voice was heavy with grief. "We told ourselves we were bringing order to chaos, civilization to savages. But we were just afraid. Afraid of change. Afraid of being replaced." "You didn't know," Jake said. "You were raised to believe something different. Does that excuse it?" "No. But it means you can choose something different now." She looked at him with those violet eyes that had become so familiar. "How do you do this?" "Do what?" "See the good in everyone. Even someone like me, from a people who have caused so much harm." Jake thought about his answer. He thought about his own life. The mistakes he had made. The people he had hurt. He thought about second chances and the possibility of redemption. "Because I know what it feels like to be the person who made mistakes," he said. "And I know that what matters is not where you start. It's where you choose to go." Valeth was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached out and took his hand. She had started doing this more often, this human gesture of connection. Each time, it felt more natural. "I choose to go forward," she said. "With you, with your crew." "Whatever that means," Jake agreed. The refuge was a station hidden in the debris field of a destroyed planet. It was ugly and patched together, built from the wreckage of 100 different ships. But it was alive with activity. Species Jake had never seen moved through its corridors, working and talking and living. The leader of the refuge was a being named Korthus. He was from a species called the Ven, small and covered in soft gray fur, with large eyes that missed nothing. He greeted Jake and Valeth in a chamber filled with representatives from a dozen worlds. "Commander Morrison," Korthus said through a translator. "Your message was unexpected. In 3,000 years, no young species has ever defied the Dominion so openly." "We didn't know what we were doing," Jake admitted. We just knew we couldn't turn our backs on someone who needed help. That is precisely what makes you remarkable. Korthas turned to Valeth. And you, Princess, the daughter of the Emperor, seeking shelter among the outcasts your people oppressed. This is either a great deception or a great change. Valeth stepped forward. She did not hide or apologize. I have seen the truth of what my people have done. I cannot undo it, but I can refuse to continue it. I am not here to deceive you. I am here to learn. The room was silent. Then, slowly, Korthas nodded. We will see. Trust is earned, not given. But you may stay. Both of you. In the days that followed, Jake and his crew explored the refuge. They met survivors of Dominion violence, heard stories of destroyed worlds and scattered families. It was hard to listen to. Several times, Jake saw Valeth leave a conversation in tears, overwhelmed by the weight of her people's crimes, but she did not stop. She listened to every story. She learned every name. She carried the weight of crowns she had never asked to wear. Danny made a discovery while examining the data from Valeth's ship. Hidden among the standard files was something valuable. Detailed information about Dominion military positions and fleet movements. This information could shift the balance of power in the entire region. Word spread quickly. Representatives from the refuge began approaching Jake, asking him to share the data. Some offered trades. Others made threats. Everyone wanted what he had. Jake called a meeting with his senior crew. We have a choice to make, he said. This information could help a lot of people. It could also start a war that kills millions. What do we do? We should share it, Danny said. The Dominion has been hurting people for centuries. This could stop them. Or it could make things worse, Lisa argued. We don't know these people. We don't understand their politics. We could give this information to the wrong faction and cause more suffering. ETS, Amy spoke quietly. What does Valeth think? Everyone looked at the princess. She stood apart from the group, her silver skin pale in the station's artificial light. I think, she said slowly, that this is not our decision to make alone. This information affects everyone in this region of space. We should call a council. Let the people of the refuge decide together what to do with it. Jake nodded. That sounds right. The council was held 3 days later. Representatives from every species at the refuge gathered in the main chamber. Jake presented the data and offered to share it. But only if they could agree on how to use it responsibly. The debate lasted for hours. There were arguments and accusations, old grudges brought back to life. But in the end, they reached a decision. The information would be shared with all members of the refuge equally. No one species would have an advantage. They would use it for defense, not conquest. It was not a perfect solution, but it was a fair one. After the council, Valeth found Jake alone on an observation deck. He was looking out at the debris field, thinking about everything that had happened. You did something important today, she said. You could have used that information for yourself. You could have traded it for power or safety. Instead, you gave it away. It wasn't mine to keep, Jake said. We found it by accident. It belongs to the people who need it most. Valeth stood beside him, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. My father would like you. He always said that the measure of a leader is not what they take, but what they give. Your father sounds wise. He is. Her voice grew soft. I miss him. I wonder if I will ever see him again. As if in answer, a message arrived the next morning. It was addressed to Jake, but it came from the heart of the Dominion itself. From Emperor Soranath, the message was simple. The Emperor thanked Jake for protecting his daughter. He acknowledged the courage it took to stand against the Dominion. And he made an offer. Come to neutral ground, bring Valeth. Let us talk about peace between our peoples. Jake read the message 3 times. He showed it to his crew, then to Valeth. Is it real? He asked her. Valeth stared at her father's words, her hands trembling. It is his voice. His manner. Yes, it is real. Can we trust it? She was quiet for a long time. I do not know. My father is a good man. But he is surrounded by enemies. This could be genuine. Or it could be a trap set by others using his name. Jake thought about the risks. He thought about everything they had built at the refuge. He thought about the chance, however small, for real peace. We'll go, he said, but we'll be careful. Valeth looked at him with something like fear and something like hope. Together? Jake took her hand. This gesture that had once seemed strange now felt like the most natural thing in the world. Together, he promised. The stars outside waited in silence, holding their breath for what was to come. The journey to the meeting point took 10 days. 10 days of tension and preparation, of quiet conversations and sleepless nights. The crew of the Wanderer Times knew they were flying into danger. They went anyway. Jake spent much of the journey with Valeth. They talked about small things and large things, about memories and hopes. He told her about growing up in Colorado, about the mountains he used to climb as a boy, about the night sky that first made him dream of the stars. I was always looking up, he said. Always wondering what was out there. I never felt like I belonged on Earth. Too restless, too curious. And now? Valeth asked. Do you feel like you belong here? Jake thought about the question. He looked around the small observation room where they sat, at the stars drifting past the window, at the alien woman beside him who had become so important to him. I don't know where I belong, he admitted. But I know I'm where I'm supposed to be. Valeth moved closer to him. In the dim light, her silver skin seemed to glow softly. Among my people, we have a concept called soul anchor. It means a person, or place, that holds you steady when everything else is chaos. You have become my soul anchor, Jake Morrison. He did not know what to say, so he said nothing. He just took her hand and held it gently. She looked down at their intertwined fingers. I have been thinking about what you told me, about human touch, about how it can mean many things. She paused. What does this mean? When you hold my hand like this? Jake's heart beat faster. He had been asking himself the same question for weeks. It means I care about you. It means I don't want to let go. Is that all? He looked into her violet eyes. He saw hope there, and fear, and something else. Something that matched what he felt in his own chest. No, he said. That's not all. She leaned toward him, and he leaned toward her. The gap between them closed, and for a moment, nothing else existed. Not the danger ahead, not the war behind, not the vast distance between their worlds, just two hearts finding each other in the darkness. The meeting was scheduled to take place on a barren moon at the edge of Dominion space. It was neutral territory, claimed by no one. Both parties would be equally exposed, equally vulnerable. The Wanderer Times arrived first. They landed on the gray surface and waited, watching the sky for signs of the Emperor's ship. An hour passed. Then 2. Maybe he's not coming, Danny said. He was nervous, checking his instruments over and over. He'll come, Valeth said. But Jake could hear the doubt in her voice. Then the sky lit up with light, and a ship descended from the clouds. It was beautiful and terrible. A vessel of war and ceremony, covered in symbols of the Dominion. It landed 100 meters from the Wanderer asterisk, and a ramp extended to the ground. Emperor Soranath emerged. He was old, older than Jake had expected. His silver skin was lined with age, and he walked with the help of a staff. But his eyes were sharp and bright. And when he saw Valeth, his face transformed with joy. My daughter, he said, opening his arms. Valeth ran to him. They embraced in the dust of the barren moon, father and daughter reunited after months of separation and fear. Jake watched from a distance, giving them privacy. He felt a strange mix of emotions, happiness for Valeth, nervousness about what came next, and a small ache of loneliness that he pushed aside. After a few minutes, they separated. Soranath turned to Jake and studied him with those ancient eyes. You are Jake Morrison, the Emperor said. "The human who defied my empire. Yes, sir. You protected my daughter when you had no reason to. You sheltered her when it would have been easier to turn away." "Why, M?" Jake thought carefully before answering. "Because it was the right thing to do. Because she needed help. Because that's what humans do." Soranath smiled. It was a tired smile, full of weight and wisdom. "I have ruled for 300 years. I have met leaders and warriors from 100 species. Few of them would have done what you did." He paused. "I believe you may be exactly what this galaxy needs." They talked for hours in a shelter set up between the two ships. Soranath explained the situation in the Dominion. The purists had grown stronger. They had attempted a coup, and though it had failed, civil war was spreading. The Emperor's loyalists were outnumbered. He needed allies. "Your people are young and small," Soranath said to Jake. "But you have something my people have lost. Fire. Passion. The willingness to fight for what is right, even when victory is uncertain. I would like to propose an alliance between humanity and the Dominion." Jake felt the weight of this moment. He was just a commander of a small ship. He had no authority to make deals on behalf of all humanity. But he also knew that this chance might never come again. "I can't speak for everyone on Earth," he said. "But I can speak for myself and my crew. We're willing to work with you, to try to build something better." Soranath nodded. "That is enough for now. The rest will follow." They were preparing to finalize the details when Lisa's voice crackled over the radio. "Commander! Ships incoming. Multiple contacts. Coming in fast." Jake ran outside and looked up. The sky was filling with lights. Dozens of ships, emerging from hyperspace, surrounding the moon. His heart went cold. "Purists," Valeth whispered. She had followed him out, her father close behind. "They found us." "Treachery," Soranath said. His voice was heavy with betrayal. "Someone in my own court sold us out." The battle began without warning. Energy weapons lit up the sky. Explosions shook the ground. Jake shouted orders to his crew. And the Wanderer Times lifted off, firing at the enemy ships. It was chaos. The Purist fleet was large and well-armed. The Emperor's escort fought bravely. But they were outnumbered. One by one, they fell. Danny performed miracles in the engine room, keeping the Wanderer Times flying even as damage mounted. Lisa navigated through the chaos with impossible precision. Amy prepared the medical bay for casualties they all knew were coming. Ben Torres manned the weapons, firing at anything that came close. And Jake led from the bridge, making decisions faster than he could think, driven by instinct and desperation. Through it all, Valeth stood beside him. She was not trained for combat, but she refused to hide. She watched the battle with fierce eyes. Her hands clenched into fists. "There are too many," she said. "We can't win this." Jake knew she was right. But he had not come this far to give up. "We don't have to win. We just have to survive." A Purist ship broke through the defensive line and headed straight for the Emperor's vessel. Jake saw it coming. He knew what would happen if it reached its target. "Danny, give me everything," he shouted. The Wanderer Times surged forward, placing itself between the Purist ship and the Emperor. The impact was devastating. The enemy ship exploded against their shields, and the Wanderer Times spun out of control. When Jake regained consciousness, he was lying on the floor of the bridge. Alarms screamed around him. Through the cracked view screen, he could see the battle had shifted. The Purist fleet was retreating. Somehow, against all odds, they had survived. But the cost had been high. Valeth helped him to his feet. Tears streamed down her silver face. "My father," she whispered. They found Soranath in his damaged ship, surrounded by his guards. He had been struck by debris during the battle. His wounds were fatal. Amy did everything she could, but there was nothing to be done. Jake and Valeth knelt beside the dying Emperor. His breaths were shallow, his eyes growing dim. "Valeth," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "You must take the throne, unite our people, lead them to something better. Father, I can't. You can. You have your mother's heart, and your own courage." He turned to Jake. "And you, human, watch over her. Help her find her way." "I will," Jake promised. Soranath smiled one last time. Then his eyes closed, and he was gone. Valeth's scream of grief echoed across the empty moon. Jake held her as she wept, feeling her pain as if it were his own. Around them, the survivors gathered in silence, watching their princess mourn her father. The emperor was dead, the civil war had begun in earnest, and Valeth Soranai, princess of the Kethvari dominion, had become its empress. The longest night was not yet over. The days after the battle were filled with grief and hard work. The Times Wanderer Times had barely survived. Half its systems were damaged. 2 crew members had been injured, though none had been killed. Jake considered that a miracle, given what they had faced. They limped back to the refuge with the survivors of the Emperor's escort. Word had already spread across the region. Emperor Soranath was dead, killed by purest treachery. His daughter Valeth was now empress, and somehow, impossibly, a small human ship had stood at the center of it all. Valeth had changed. The grief of losing her father had settled into her bones, making her quieter, more serious. But it had not broken her. If anything, it had hardened her resolve. She spent her days meeting with representatives from the refuge, building the alliances her father had dreamed of, planning for the war that was coming. Jake watched her work and felt proud. He also felt sad. He knew what was coming, even if he did not want to face it. One evening, Amy found him alone in the observation room. She sat beside him without speaking for a long time. They had known each other for 5 years. Since the beginning of the mission, she could read his silences. "You're thinking about her," Amy said. "I'm always thinking about her. She has to go back, doesn't she? To claim her throne." Jake nodded. "The Loyalist forces are gathering at the Dominion capital. She needs to be there to lead them, to show them that she's alive and ready to fight." "And you?" He did not answer. He did not know the answer. Amy put her hand on his arm. "Jake, you've done more in these few months than most people do in a lifetime. You saved a princess, defied an empire, helped start a revolution. Whatever you decide next, you should be proud of that." "I don't feel proud," Jake said. "I feel lost." "Maybe that's okay. Maybe being lost is how we find where we're supposed to be." She left him alone with his thoughts. Outside the window, the stars burned in silence. Somewhere among them, Earth waited. His home, his people, everything he had known before this strange, beautiful journey began. But Earth felt very far away now. And he was not sure it felt like home anymore. The next morning, Valeth asked to see him privately. They met in the small room that had become their place, the observation deck where they had shared so many conversations, so many moments. She looked tired but beautiful. Her silver skin caught the light from the stars, and her violet eyes held depths he had learned to read over these months together. "I have made my decision," she said. "I will return to the Dominion capital. The Loyalists need their empress. The purists need to see that they have not won." "I know," Jake said. "It will be dangerous. The war could last years. I may not survive." "I know." She stepped closer to him. Close enough that he could feel the coolness of her skin, smell the strange flowers and metal scent that clung to her. "Jake," she said, "you have given me so much. You saved my life. You showed me what courage looks like. You helped me see my people through new eyes. You held me when I thought I would break." She paused. "And you taught me something I never expected to learn." "What's that?" "How to love." The word hung in the air between them. Jake felt his heart stop and restart. He had known this feeling existed between them, had felt it growing stronger every day, but hearing her say it out loud made it real in a way nothing else could. "Valeth, let me finish." She took his hands in hers. Her fingers were long and cool and perfect. I am asking you to come with me, not as an ambassador or an ally, as my partner, my sole anchor. Her voice trembled. I know what I am asking. I know you have a home, a people, a life that existed before me. I have no right to ask you to leave all of that behind. But you're asking anyway. Yes. Tears glistened in her violet eyes. Because I cannot imagine facing what comes next without you. Because when I think about the future, you are always there. Because I love you, Jake Morrison. And I do not want to live in a universe where we are apart. She held his hands tightly, and her whisper carried all the weight of her heart. Will you remain with me? Jake looked at her. He thought about Earth, so far away. He thought about the mountains of Colorado, the night sky of his childhood, the life he had left behind. He thought about his crew, who had become his family, who would follow him wherever he went. And he thought about Valeth, about her courage and her grief, about her silver skin in starlight, about the way she laughed when something surprised her, the way she listened when he talked about nothing important, the way she made him feel like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. He thought about everything he would be giving up. And everything he would be gaining. The choice was impossible. The choice was obvious. The choice was the easiest he had ever made. He squeezed her hands and smiled. I'm not going anywhere. Valeth's face transformed with joy. She threw her arms around him and held him tight, and he held her back, and for a long moment they stayed that way. Two beings from different worlds, different species, different everything, and yet somehow, impossibly, perfectly matched. Thank you, she whispered against his shoulder. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Don't thank me, Jake said. I should be thanking you. You gave me something I've been looking for my whole life. She pulled back and looked at him. What is that? A reason to stay. They walked to the bridge together, hands intertwined. The crew was waiting for them. They had already heard rumors, had already guessed what was happening. Danny was grinning. Amy was wiping tears from her eyes. Lisa tried to look professional, but she was smiling too. Jake faced them, his family, his friends, the people who had traveled through darkness with him for years. You all know the situation, he said. The Empress needs to return to her people. There's a war coming, and she has to lead it. I've decided to go with her. He paused. I'm not ordering anyone to follow me. You can take the ship back to Earth, report what we've found, live your lives. No one would blame you. The crew was silent. Then Danny stepped forward. Commander, with all due respect, that's the dumbest thing you've ever said. We didn't follow you across the galaxy just to turn back now. He's right, Amy added. We started this together. We're going to finish it together. One by one, the crew voiced their agreement. They were staying. All of them. Jake felt a wave of emotion he could not name. Pride. Gratitude. Love. He nodded, not trusting his voice to speak. Valeth stepped forward and addressed the crew. You have honored me beyond words. When I first came aboard this ship, I thought humans were primitive and strange. Now I know that you are the bravest people I have ever met. I am proud to call you my allies, my friends. She glanced at Jake. My family. The Wanderer Times began its journey toward the Dominion capital that afternoon. They would arrive in 2 weeks, during which time Valeth would prepare her message to her people. And Jake would prepare for a life he had never imagined. On the first night of the journey, they stood together at the observation window. The stars streamed past, infinite and beautiful. Are you scared? Valeth asked. Terrified, Jake admitted. You? Also terrified. She smiled. But less than I was before. Why is that? Because I am not facing it alone. He put his arm around her, and she leaned into him. And they watched the universe unfold before them. There would be battles ahead, and losses, and moments of despair. There would be victories too, and joy, and wonders they could not yet imagine. But all of that was in the future. For now, in this moment, there was only this. Two hearts beating together in the darkness. Two souls finding home in each other. Jake Morrison, a simple man from a small town in Colorado, had traveled to the stars and found something he never expected. Valith Soranai, Empress of the Kethvari Dominion, had lost everything and found it again in the most unlikely place. Together, they would change the galaxy. Together, they would prove that love could bridge any distance, heal any wound, conquer any fear. Together, they would remain. And the stars, which had seen empires rise and fall for billions of years, looked down upon them and smiled. This was how the story began. This was how the universe changed. This was humanity's first great adventure among the stars. And it was only the beginning.